If your nonprofit is waiting on a grant to save you, you're already behind. So today I'm going to show you why fundraising, not grants, is the fastest and most predictable way to bring in real nonprofit revenue, especially with Giving Tuesday coming up. Okay? This video isn't an anti-grant. Like, I'm not against grants at all. And it's not anti-waiting. It's not anti-wishful thinking, anti-maybe they'll pick us. None of that. So my goal is to show you a funding approach that you actually can control. So by the end of this video, you'll walk away with simple steps you can use to raise money immediately, even if you have no staff, no big board, and no big name donors. All right, let's jump into it. So the biggest problem, let's talk about the big problem that nonprofits actually face and why grants keep nonprofits broke, especially if you're only relying on grants. Grants are usually slow. They are very competitive. They come with rules, and then grants create a dependency, right? And they rarely cover operating expense. They've gotten a little better just since 2020, actually, but there's still ways you have to be very creative, but it might not cover all your operating costs or expenses. And they require proof of what you already did most of the time. Okay, so some type of history that goes beyond sometime even the 501c3. It's like, what work have you done? And most of the time I hear you all saying, but I can't do the work if I don't have the money. Okay, so I've been doing this probably long time, okay? Or over 25 years, been in the nonprofit world. And I can't tell you how many leaders come to me saying over the years, Miss Kathy, if I could just get this one grant. Most of the time it's something like 1,500,000 or something like that, right? And then I look a little closer, and the whole funding plan is built on hope. It's what they're hoping to do. It's not a real budget. So, a nonprofit living off grants is a nonprofit living on nerves. I'm sure if you've been around for a minute and you have been relying on trying to get grants, then of course you've been living on nerves too. So revenue is actually stability, and fundraising is not a curse, is momentum. Grants, they're the bonus round. So basically, you want to have other activities, and the grant funders want you to show that you have done other means or other ways of bringing in revenue and not just depending on a grant. Let's take a few moments here. We want to just talk about the truth. You don't need a grant, not another grant, even if you've gotten a grant. You really need a revenue strategy. So important. So let's break down the difference. This is grants versus fundraising. So grants equal hope. Fundraising, you're actually taking action. Grants equal waiting. Fundraising, you're actually building. Grants is someone else's timeline, right? So you have those rules. Fundraising is basically your timeline. All right, so if your nonprofit is sitting by the inbox, like it's waiting for a text from an ex, we really need to talk. We really need to talk. So let's talk about what fundraising really is or actually is. Most nonprofits think fundraising equal events. Not totally false, but the real truth is that real fundraising, is built on four revenue streams, core revenue streams, we call them. So there's different areas of this fundraising, or we'll say parts that have to go together. Okay. You got individual giving. That's one. You have monthly donors and recurring giving. That's two. And then you have corporate sponsorships. That's three. Remember, that's different from grants. So corporate sponsorships, and then strategic fundraising events. In other words, not random, not chaotic. They actually go together and should go together. There should be a component of fundraising even before your event, no matter what event that is. Okay, so let's break it down. If you master these four, you'll never sit around waiting on grant approval season again, right? You have predictable money, predictable growth, and predictable income or impact, actually. And so the fundraising framework, let's kind of break it down for the framework clarity. What problem do you solve? Does this sound familiar if you've been listening to me before? Got to have that clarity, right? That's so important. People give to clarity, not confusion. So if you don't know what you need the money for and you're not clear on your vision and mission, then how are they going to even want to give? Keep it simple. And we always say third grade level. You don't have to do all the fluff. And that's why sometimes you're hiring experts too early, right? If you hire a fundraising consultant or myself, make sure you're really ready to take the action. But even we working together. So it still needs to be from your vision, your heart, and then we put it out there for everyone to understand. And can you explain your nonprofit in one sentence? That is that. In business, we call that the elevator pitch. And the time that it takes for an elevator to go from one floor, and by the time you get to the bottom or next or what have you, you should be able to, that averages about 60 seconds or less, but you should be able to tell someone and explain someone what your nonprofit does in one sentence, okay? And then we're going to go to, this is part of the framework, community. Who actually supports you? Again, if you've been following me, you know I say you have to think about the stakeholders. Volunteers are considered stakeholders, recurring donors, local businesses, as well as community partners. Okay? We won't go deep into that, but it is just what it says, partners that you have within the community itself. So most nonprofits don't have a money problem. They don't. They have a community engagement problem. And I could go so deep with this, right? You have to have community engagement from the area of who you're serving to where the funding or even the movers and shakers of I often give reference to sometimes they're political people, but you're not concerned about who they are in the form of who you're going to endorse. That's not what you care about. You concerned about the power that they have, where the funding comes through, and how they can be an advantage or leverage that relationship that you have to help the people that are in need. Not necessarily your nonprofit, but think of it as helping the people in need. You're the liaison. So that's community engagement, and you want to hear from the community. Okay, so this is where we go into connection. This is that third area of framework. How will you reach them? In our nonprofit school community, I ask which CRM and newsletter do they have? That's important. You want to collect the email list. It's just like a business. You want to make sure you have a presence on social media. I said another curse word. Oh, curse words, social media. You want to make sure you're connected to the local networks. Nowadays, you can do internet podcasts. A lot of the radio stations run on podcasts as well. But find out what your local, don't just use one genre that you're used to, your culture. Try to get other radio or TV shows that you might could be have an appearance. Okay, churches are important. If you're not part of churches, whatever your belief is, but a lot of times just even community meetups and stuff. Speaking events where that could be community as well. And then just general word of mouth. We never want to just throw that out there, but unfortunately, I hear too many nonprofits say, I'm just, they just hear about me. We're just gonna, just by word of mouth. It's 2025 at the date of when I'm filming this. That should not be the only thing that you rely on is word of mouth because you're going to miss some very important people. And when I say very important, the only very important people besides the ones that you're serving are the ones that's going to support the mission. That's it. All right. If people don't know what you do, they simply can't fund what you do. That sounded like so smart, right? But so simple. Okay. But they do have to know what you do. And even social media, all these areas that we just discussed, they don't cost. And then our last area of framework is the call to action. It is so important that you have a clear call to action. Just like in business, we call it call to actions. What are you asking people to do? If you're asking them to donate, say you're asking them to donate. For example, give $25 today. Give $50, but whatever you can do, we'll appreciate. Become a monthly donor. These are the things you want to say, even if it's in a newsletter or you're saying it verbally or it's on some of the literature that you're sending out there. Attend your Giving Tuesday because I am doing a 5-day challenge leading up to Giving Tuesday. If you are listening to this before Giving Tuesday, December 2025, right? We're going to strategically plan this a few days before. But again, if you're in our school community, I encourage you that you should have already seen the post that talked about what Giving Tuesday is. And hopefully you'll go ahead and register. There's a lot of icons and different things you can use for social media, but they do a whole countdown. Actually, I think it's about 2 to 3 months in advance. But even with us being that close, let's go along with the program of what they're doing and I'm not going to say more. You have to find out about Giving Tuesday by coming into our community. If you're in our community and listen to it, make sure you have gone to that post. Okay. And then you might want to say sponsor a family or program. A lot of times if there's costs related to, say, a youth program or daycare or what have you, but you have a nonprofit, you don't change your rates. You can have people sponsor to supplement those particular rates. You keep the rates what they are and you supplement. So you want to tell them, sponsor a family, a program. So if you don't ask, what's the answer? It's always no. But if you ask, there's a very good chance that you'll get that yes. Okay? So prep for Giving Tuesday. It's a 5-day, I call it a mini fundraising challenge. At least it gives you the basic structure of how to fundraise. And many of you, it might be your first time doing that. I know it's icky for most of us to even think of it. But when you have the team, your board, and maybe some other people, you're not an island. But when you do these things correctly, it does not get overwhelming, and you'd be surprised who will give. Okay? If everything I've shared so far is hitting home, you're not alone and you're not behind. You just need a simple plan for Giving Tuesday. So make sure you get in our school community. And for those that's in there, just look out for my announcement. I haven't figured out yet how I'm going to either run it. I think I'm going to run it inside the community instead of doing anything on Facebook. And that way you're always there and it's a free community, so you get all the other information as well. And then I have an offer at the end of the challenge, of course, but it will be related on another level for our fundraising. Actually, it's a fundraising course, but it's combined with being able to have a strategic meeting. So I just kind of told you the offer. Yeah, so focus, simple, step-by-step experience. And like I said, I'm walking you through raising the money quickly. So I want to make sure in my notes that I don't miss anything. So what you'll learn in those 5 days, just kind of recap, is how to clarify your Giving Tuesday message, but we'll also just give how to clarify your message overall. Okay, how to activate your supporters, how to build a simple donor list, how to create a Giving Tuesday ask, and then how to create momentum leading up to that day. Again, this is a mini challenge. We only have 5 little days, okay? The goal is not to overwhelm you. It's not complicated, and you don't need a team, but there are some systems that have to be in place. And within our community, I have gone over what you need to have established before. If not, on day one, we're going to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field. Okay? So this 5-day challenge will help you stop waiting and start raising, right? So a little about me, whoever doesn't know me out there, I started new two nonprofits back in the day, 1990, and then I started another one about 93. And I was almost exhausted, right? But I had to kick in. And thankfully for me, and you all should have the same, if you're not the outgoing person, which I'm not, I'm somewhat of an introvert. You see me doing this because this is my passion. And in my mind, I'm helping people help people. So as long as I'm helping others and fighting for others in my way, I can speak to anybody. But it takes all kinds of people and personalities. And you'd be surprised that whatever you say is your excuse of why you don't like to ask or why you don't like to fundraise, people will give because it's you. They will give because of your personality. And that's what I found out. Even though my partner was more outgoing and everything, I could sit there and just say, we need $100 for the people in the home. And someone's going to give us $100, right? Yeah. So let's see. And basically just doing a combination of fundraising as well as applying for grants, but that was very limited even back then before the computer age. If nothing else, we had the funding from just asking and making sure. We didn't even have the emails, but you made sure you mailed letters, communicated, reached out, called people, all of those kind of things we did back then. So if you're ready to stop waiting and start bringing in money by Giving Tuesday, join me. Won't you join me in the 5-day mini challenge? And the first step to doing that is, click that link. Join the school community, the nonprofit funding and impact hub within SKOOL. And let's build your Giving Tuesday plan together as well as build your nonprofit so you can make the impact that you desire. So in closing, I got a few little quotes here. Nonprofits don't fail because they lack heart. I'm not saying that. They fail because they lack a money strategy. I will say that forever. And we're fixing that together. So I'm Miss Kathy. And I look forward to seeing you inside the challenge, but more importantly, I look forward to seeing you inside of our community because there's so much more coming to you. And all the questions you had about starting your nonprofit, how to grow it, all those things, we get right to it, right? And you have an opportunity to learn what you need to learn about having a successful and healthy nonprofit organization. I'll talk to you later. Peace.